Thank you. We're really pleased this evening to have the opportunity to personally acknowledge so many of you with us. To give you some sense of how far we've come, as a numbers guy, I've got to have some numbers, so I have a few numbers for you. In the fall of 1999, the average financial aid gift at the university or grant to a student was $10,700. In 2015, it was $35,300. And under Father John's leadership, I think in particular, the financial aid budget, when he came in each year for undergraduate need-based financial aid was $64 million. And in this most recent year, it was exactly double that, $128 million, given each year to our undergraduate students. And I'm really pleased that you applauded that, because you were applauding yourselves. It's you who have made that possible. And as I said to you when I opened my comments, you provide what I would view as the greatest gift that anybody could give to a young 18-year-old, the gift of a Notre Dame education. Something that not just transforms their lives for the 4 years that they're here, but something that stays with them for the rest of their lives and makes them wonderful members of the communities in which they live. So each of you, through your actions and your generosity, have had a tremendous impact on those individual lives and on our university. So again, on behalf of Father John, Tom Barish, our provost, and all of us who work here, a truly, truly heartfelt thanks for all that you've done to help us in this area. It is so important. So now we're going to have this chance to recognize benefactors who've reached a particular milestone. I will call on each of you. We'll give you a small token of our appreciation, have your picture taken with Father John, and then if you wish to share a remark with the audience on your gift, we'd be very pleased for you to do that. We're blessed to have more than 40 individuals and families to recognize tonight, so the only thing we ask is if you can keep those remarks brief. Also, we're going to ask if you just follow along in your program, as we get close to the name of you follow the names of the recipients as we go through the list. As we get close to your name, will you come up to the left-hand side of the stage and just be ready so that we can acknowledge you at your time when we call your name. As I said at the beginning, the gifts this evening are wooden boxes created and crafted by members of the Notre Dame family. You can read about more of them on the back of your menu. Nestled within each box is a candle from the grotto. So we encourage you to take this home with you if you want, or take it to the grotto, and really an opportunity for us to acknowledge our thanks to you, but also for you maybe to use that candle to pray for your family, or maybe say a prayer for the recipient of your benefaction, who's studying here often under very, very difficult circumstances. So just ask that you do that. We hope that you pray for all of us at the university, especially me and Lou. We need your prayers more than anybody else. So if you want to use your candle for us, we'd be extremely grateful. I now ask that Father John Jenkins, the Notre Dame University's 17th president, to join me on stage, and we'll begin the acknowledgement program. So we'll begin. So we'll begin with the Notre Dame clubs. 2 clubs that have reached milestone status are represented here tonight. I will introduce them and ask that they stand to be recognized. Bill and Mary Beth Fessler from the Notre Dame Club of Fairfield County, Connecticut. Thomas P. Carney Jr. from the Notre Dame Club of Lake County, Illinois. Congratulations to those clubs. What an achievement. Now we move to the presidential level. And I will go through these names in order. So Paul and Ruth D'Antonio, please join us up on the stage.
First, I want to all from Ruth and I, congratulations to Father John. He's celebrating 34 years as a priest. We wish you many more. Ruth and I are delighted to have the opportunity to help this fine university. Dominus vobiscum.
Thank you, Paul. It took me back to my years as an altar boy. Fred and Marianne Kuha.
Marianne and I are blessed to be here and very lucky to be here. And remembering what I said the last time I was lucky enough to be here, I'm going to try to remember it word for word because it went over pretty well. The joy that Marianne and I feel every time we come to this campus, the joy that we feel at being a small part of this magnificent endeavor, and the joy we feel every time we're with people like you can be summed up in 4 words. And almost metaphysically, if you think about them, but the 4 words used to be led by the cheerleaders at the beginning of the 4th quarter of a football game. And if you're with me and know where I'm going, you can say them with me. We are ND. God bless all of you.
Thank you, Fred and Marianne. We now move to the distinguished level, Bob and Susan Durgeon.
Well, thank you, John. Susan and I are so thankful to be able to share our blessings with the future generations of Notre Dame students. I reflect on the last time I was at this meeting, and one of the speakers referred to their interaction with Father Joe Carey in their senior year, and I had a very similar interaction in which Father Carey was able to help me finish my time here at the university based on the gift of donors before us. And now that we're in a different position in our lives, I'm so pleased that we can now give back to the university, to this very special place, so that other young people can achieve their dreams and also, hopefully in the future, contribute to this special place. Thank you.
Next honoree is Michael George.
I thought I'd just tell maybe 3 very quick 1-minute stories about, all in 1 minute actually, about things that struck me today about Notre Dame. I remember being in high school 44 years ago, and a young admissions representative named Dan Saraceno sending me a letter that unfortunately I hadn't made it into early admission, but that I should try again, which I did. And I wanted to thank him tonight for that. The second thing was actually my freshman year. I was very fortunate to have an RA who was a first-year law student named Bill Boschia. before he was Father Bill Beauchamp. And I was having a tough time academically, and was talking about transferring to Michigan. And he's like, oh, no, you don't want to do that. So he said, stick it out, and we think we'll do it. And I did, and I thought of him today also for that great advice. And the third thing I thought of was my parents, and Jane and Bill George from a little town in Montana, and how through their perseverance got me here. So I'm very pleased. Thank you.
We didn't get his picture quite yet. Sorry, Father John. We're gonna get this picture one more time because the light didn't work. Just a sec, Bill.
Right, our next honoree having his picture taken, Father John's ahead of me, and this is Bill Greif.
I had a long speech prepared, but I'll take the recommendation to be very brief. I wouldn't be standing here this evening if it hadn't been for a lovely woman who's now deceased, my wife, Connie. She insisted that I come to Notre Dame, and when I agreed, she agreed to marry me after I told her that I had been accepted at Notre Dame Law School. True story. She happened to know Father Hetzberg long before I even knew him, and when he was our rector at Vettville. That was, a lot of you have no idea what Vettville was, but that's where the World War II veterans lived. There were 200 families there with their wives and children. Anyway, now my wife, who should be here to receive this award, is over at Cedar Grove Cemetery looking at the dome. So I appreciate what you did for me, Father, and thank you very much.
The next recipient is Tim Husara.
How can I follow that? That's all I got to say.
Mike Steffen.
Well, like all of you, I really treasured my time here at Notre Dame, and I'm just happy to be able to give back in a small way for everything that Notre Dame did for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We now move to the prize level, and our first recipients in this group are Gregory Cloyd and Eileen Kennedy.
Good evening. I just wanted to take a moment to thank my scholarship benefactor to Notre Dame, Matthew J. Carney. His is an Irish story. I won't tell you all of it. But in the early 1920s, when Father Burns, our president, was really, truly embattled, and the university was quite literally broke and in debt, Matt Carney was one of the Subway alums who came together, and he initially gave $100,000, which grew to $250,000 in the early 1920s. That matched and had to grow to $750,000 in matching funds in order to get $250,000 from the Rockefeller Foundation. That money was quite literally the birth of the Notre Dame endowment, $1 million, 1925. So I gotta say, thank you, Matt Carney. It meant everything to me and my family. and the birth of the Notre Dame Endowment and the requirements that they begin to modernize began Notre Dame. Go Irish.
Thank you, Gregory. A wonderful reminder that was Father Burns who started our endowment, and how that has certainly grown for us. Next recipients are Bob and Leslie Denver.
Well, I have somewhere between 25 and 100 stories to explain my passion and love for Notre Dame. And they will all be available at Roar's after the dinner. The short of it, one of the best and the shortest, is my father. I named a scholarship after him. He worked 2 jobs. My mother worked at the post office. Nobody thought about college, much less Notre Dame. He finagled it somehow. He died when I was a sophomore, and it's been all good after that. So Notre Dame has been everything to my family and me. And the best news is my 5th child, who's 18, just got accepted this week. I shouldn't say mine, Leslie and mine.
Next, we have Tom and Libby Isley.
Thank you. Both Libby and I are first generation college graduates. I'm a Notre Dame grad. Our 2 daughters are Notre Dame grads, one a double domer. Since being first generation college grads between Libby and our 2 children and me, we have 10 degrees now, so we collect them. So we're very grateful for Notre Dame and what they've done to us, and our kids have had some great long-term friendships. And we've enjoyed their friends, their parents and their friends very, very much. So we're honored to be here, and thank you. Go Irish.
Thanks, Tom and Libby. Keep collecting those degrees. Great. Mike and Donna Gianelli are our next guests. They're in front here.
Well, thank you, and good evening. First of all, I want to thank the university for this event and the opportunity to hear those students' stories today. That really validated our decision to fund a scholarship. Our scholarship is about paying it forward or paying it back. I don't know which one it really is. Both my parents were the children of Italian immigrants. My parents grew up during the Depression. Neither one of them had the opportunity to go to college. But that made them determined that their children were going to be able to go to college. And because of them, I was able to come to this university. And I have to tell you, as an 18-year-old self-centered individual, I really didn't get the sacrifices that they had to make to send me here. And I'd like to think that I matured a little bit, and now I get it, and I understand and appreciate those sacrifices. And our scholarship is really about providing the opportunity that I had to attend this university to provide to others that don't have that opportunity. So thank you very much.
Our next recipient is Charles Kane.
So I'm joined by my fiancée, Amanda. Thank you. My dad was a fireman, and as most of you know, firemen don't make a lot of money. So the scholarship that I put in place were for children of firefighters that go to Notre Dame that have Irish names that are, no, I'm only kidding. But most of them do have Irish names. But Notre Dame was so good to me. Money was tough, and they allowed me to work in the cafeteria. That was a joke, by the way. No, and they let me do a lot of jobs and supported me through this whole function. So I wanted to do something for the students that have dads that put their life on the line all the time, like my dad did. And it reminds me of a story. When I was here, every month, my dad sent me a $5 check. And $5 back in '79 was not that little amount of money, but for him it wasn't at all. I never cashed one of those checks. And I had them to the very end of my 4 years. The only problem is my dad never checked his checkbook and balanced his checking account, so he never knew I never cashed the checks. But I just hope that these students that have very special parents love this university as much as I have. I can't say enough about it. Thank you.
Our next honorees are Sam and Janet Lanzafame.
Like many students, I came to Notre Dame with a lot of debt and very little money. I never dreamed that I would one day be called back to be recognized at a dinner with so many generous, successful, and wonderful people as we have here this evening. But the saying goes, anything's possible with God. Well, I guess so, because here I am. The Lord has blessed Janet and I with many, many wonderful gifts. But He also touched our heart to share them. And we are very happy to share them with the University of Notre Dame. So thank you all very much. And thank you, Father, for invitation to dinner.
Thank you, Sam. Next honorees are Brian and Laurie Thielen.
So everybody has a Notre Dame story. My Notre Dame story is 31 years ago, I proposed to my wife in the grotto 2 days from now. So Laurie's an 87 grad, I'm 86. When people ask me about my Notre Dame experience, I say I'm one of the 2 classes that can say that I was here for 4 of Jerry Faust's 5 years. But I grew up on a dairy farm in Wisconsin, and my parents said you can go anywhere you want to, but you have to find a way of funding your school. So in paying it back, it's for those kids who have to find their way paying for school. Got to find a way of doing it. So we're more than happy to be able to contribute. It's great to be a part of it. And as a good salesman who approached me during a fundraising event said once before, he said, I know you're thinking of a number. I want you to think of double that number. That is how we got to where we're at today.
Next, we're honored to receive Jenny and Mark Wilson.
That didn't work. So my husband Mark and I are very thrilled to be here tonight, and we are very thrilled that our son Ryan, who is a sophomore at Alumni Hall, is with us. My story is that my father was a Notre Dame graduate as well, and some of you may have heard me talk 2 years ago about my dad left Notre Dame after his freshman year because his father made him make a choice whether he was going to marry a non-Catholic who had been his high school sweetheart or stay at Notre Dame. And I said, my father always tells a story. He had to choose between 2 ladies, and they've been married 65 years, so it's a wonderful story. I wish I could be as articulate as the students were this morning because they were amazing, but they used a few words that I'd like to repeat. One is blessed. I think we're all very blessed. The other was foundation. I think Notre Dame certainly was a huge foundation, as were my parents, but it was very much a time that my life was molded And then they used something that was the word family. And I distinctly remember when I arrived at Notre Dame in the fall of 1982, and Father Hesburgh welcomed us to the Notre Dame family. And I am certain that I did not understand what that meant. And I think it's taken me my lifetime to continue to understand what it means that we are family. So you meet these tremendous people, you meet these tremendous students, and we're family. And I think it means more to me today even than it did then. And I would like to share one of the things that Notre Dame does that you might not know how important it is, Father, is the daily gospel readings that come out, if any of you get them. They've become a very important part of my morning. And the reading itself is lovely, but what I really like is the reflections. And I really look to who wrote it, because I think it's phenomenal. Some of them are students, some of them are former students, some of them are faculty. And I feel connected to them. I feel like they are part of my family. So the family just keeps getting bigger, and I'm thrilled that we can give back. A Notre Dame education is very special. My parents were able to pay for my education, and we were able to pay for Ryan's education. But to hear those students today that would have never been here, but for people like us that can afford it, it's a gift, and I'm glad that we can participate. Thanks.
Thank you. We now move to the named level, and our first honorees here are Amy and Dean Bennett.
It is great for us to be here tonight, and particularly so because I could not help but thinking all day today when I visited Notre Dame many years ago and made my decision to come here. It was a beautiful, warm April day, and that was a big part in why I decided to come here. So, but I had no idea what kind of impact it would have on my life at that time. I had made the visit on my mom's prodding. I never imagined that I would actually end up here, get a degree from here, which I did in business. My mom absolutely loved this place and was thrilled beyond belief when I decided to come here. She was ecstatic years later when my brother got his executive MBA from here, so both her children had Notre Dame degrees. If it was possible for her to love Notre Dame more than my brother and I combined, she would have. She was also a single parent and a grade school teacher who held education as the key to independence and success. So when she passed away a few years ago, my husband, who's here, my brother, who's not able to be here tonight, and I decided that this would be a wonderful way to continue her legacy. So our scholarship is for my mom and is for a business student. Thank you.
Our next honorees are Phil and Katie Brady.
Well, Father and John, thank you very much. And Katie and I, my wife Katie and I, very much appreciate the opportunity to participate in the scholarship weekend. What a great occasion. It's our first time doing this. And I appreciate the opportunity to make a few brief comments, but coming from Washington, D.C., it's very difficult to be brief. It's a joke and a test. I will endeavor to do so, though. We're very proud about establishing a scholarship in my father's name, Donley L. Brady, who came here in 1944, courtesy of the Navy. And he lived in that other on-campus Vetville that we talked about, Baden Hall, and he had there as his mentor, Father Hesburgh. Father Theodore Hesburgh, an up-and-coming priest at the time, and it was started a lifelong love of the university, and that lifelong love had very much a generational impact, because I'm a Notre Dame graduate, my brother is, my wife Katie is a very proud graduate of St. Mary's, and her brother's a graduate of Notre Dame, and our three sons all went to Notre Dame, and the wedding for the bringing us together and the three sons was presided over by Father Joyce, so we feel quite a connection. And we're now putting great pressure on our sons to get on it so that we can have perhaps a fourth generation. Not sure it'll happen, but again, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Our next honorees are Jim and Elaine Buddy.
We are proud to have established this scholarship as it honors three very important groups of people in our lives. First, as the Buddy Family Scholarship, it is established in the memory of our parents, Raymond and Genevieve Buddy, who valued Catholic education for their children and grandchildren far above countless worldly possessions, and helps in a small way carry this mission forward. Second, it honors the women of Lyons Hall who gave our daughter a home and lifelong friends and memories, and who, for over 20 years, have kept alive the spirit of their fellow Lyonite, Mara Fox, who was taken from them much too soon. Third, it honors Mara's parents, Teresa and Terry McCarthy, who are the very definition of grace, dignity, compassion, forgiveness, and courage in the face of unimaginable tragedy. And thank you to Father Ted for making this all possible. Thank you.
Next, we're privileged to have with us Sanjay Chaipakar.
Okay, so far all you have occupied maybe 5 minutes of your time, but I got a big speech written here. So excuse me if I get a little emotional, but I got a Notre Dame wine in my stomach, so I should be fine. Father Jenkins, Dr. Graves, ladies and gentlemen, I have been given the opportunity to talk about my wife Mrunal, since I have established a research fellowship to honor Mrunal and her commitment to science. My son Viraj, Gary and Judy Studer, my host family from my years at Notre Dame from 73 to 75, are here as we celebrate Mrunal's life. What I say today is only an inadequate expression of what I carry in my heart. Words pale in the shadow of grief. They are insufficient to measure brave sacrifice of my dear wife Mrunal. It is her love of science, research, and her nature of lifelong learning motivated me to establish this research fellowship in the Harper Cancer Research Institute here at the University of Notre Dame. I hope this donation will support the type of research that was dear to Mrunal's heart, and researchers and the same spirit of discovery and love of science that she had. Mrunal was born in a middle-class family in Mumbai. Her father was a college professor and her mother was a housewife. Her older sister became a doctor. Her brother earned his PhD in chemistry. Mrunal, the youngest child in the family, did her PhD in biochemistry from University of Bombay. Her doctoral thesis was on cancer research. When Mrunal was a postdoctoral fellow, she realized that there was not much funding to do fundamental research. Every 2 to 3 years, she had to find an institution where there was some research grant money available. Finally, she accepted a job in agencies such as NIH, FDA, and NIST, and gave up fundamental research. She was fortunate to have very challenging positions where she could still keep in touch with research activities in her own field of biochemistry. In her last job at NIST, she was instrumental in developing and promising standards Mrinal served as outreach chair for the ASTM division for tissue engineering products and the United States Pharmacopoeia Expert Committee on Cell and Gene Therapy. She also represented ATP on the multi-agency tissue engineering science, working group and NIH Bioengineering Consortium at the National Institute of Health. As a researcher, reviewer, and manager of Mrinal, interacted extensively with academia, industry, and government. She published more than 25 research papers and gave more than 40 representations on the regulatory and research aspects of biologicals. Although she knew that there is no cure for granulosa cell tumor, a rare form of ovarian cancer, she never gave up. When the usual chemotherapy drugs did not show any improvements, she suggested several drugs to her oncologist through her reading and research. She underwent surgeries using nanotechnology and cyberknife techniques in addition to traditional surgeries. She tried to excel in everything she did. Granulosa cell tumor constitute less than 5 to 8% of all ovarian cancers. Obviously, more money flows to help other types of cancers with large number of cases. Since there is not much money for GST, there is not much research being done. So after talking to Dr. Sharon Stack of HCRI, I decided to establish this fellowship and the hope that whatever means I have, I should be proactive to help and find the cure for the type of cancer Mrinal had and help others. Thanks to Chris Walsh for guiding me through this process of establishing the fellowship, and thanks to Dr. Sharon Stack for talking to me about the research which she is doing under her leadership at HCRI. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay. Our next honorees are Mike and Geraldine Saletti.
I just thought I'd warn you that Mike is a deacon, and he's used to giving long homilies.
It's a lie. Jared and I are privileged to be able to fund the Father Jerry Wilson CSC Scholarship. When I was 12 years old, I graduated from being a newspaper carrier to being an apprentice shoemaker. When I was 14, I was taken into my father's barbershop to become a shoe shine boy at 15 cents a shoe shine, clean the floors, mop the floors, and try to learn how to cut hair. When I was 16 years old, I was a licensed barber in the state of Pennsylvania. Now, at that time,
He still cuts his own hair.
At that time, my life seemed to be on a predictable trajectory to follow in my father's footsteps as a barber. But God and the Soviet Union had other plans for my life, because in 1957, the Russians put a satellite in orbit, and from that day forward in the barbershop after school until 6 o'clock when it closed, the television had nothing to show except American Bandstand and the latest success or failure in the space program. And little by little, my father began to think in terms of, Mike, you know, this country needs more engineers. No, yes, Mike, you gotta learn how to cut hair because you gotta cut hair at Notre Dame. I had the grades, I applied to Notre Dame, and I got accepted, but there was no money for me to go to school. Fortunately, the good sister of mercy that we had in our Catholic high school, Sister Laurencia Wren, in the Diocese of Pittsburgh, had a friend who was her cousin at Notre Dame. Father Jerry Wilson was vice president of business affairs at that time. She contacted him, and through whatever means of extortion she had available to her, I got a letter from him saying, Mike, there's this scholarship available to you from a man in San Diego whom I never had the opportunity to meet. But that money was there to combine with the National Defense Student Loan Program and my cutting hair in the basement of Pangborn Hall to make it possible for me to attend Notre Dame. During those 4 years, I developed a relationship with Father Jerry Wilson on the third floor of Main Hall on the side that faces the Basilica, and I could go by there from the grotto at night. If his light was on, I felt free to go up and visit him. The doors weren't locked in those days. And I would go and visit with Father Jerry. We got to know each other very well. He became a father figure to me, a mentor to me, a confessor to me. God help me. And the relationship was very strong. And yes, I did complete 4 years at Notre Dame, graduated in engineering, fell in love with the university through Father Jerry, and then stayed here for graduate school. And this lady beside me decided that she would join me.
Father Jerry was one of the first priests that I met who showed me the human face of God. He was one of the most merciful, compassionate, and loving men that I have ever met. He encouraged Mike and I to make our marriage the number one thing in our life. And so that has led to numerous opportunities to be involved in marriage ministry all over the country, and has helped us to stay married for 52 years. And and he really was the genesis of that. And not only did he fall in love with Mike, but he fell in love with my spaghetti and meatballs. So he baptized our 3 oldest children and took care of our 2 daughters who were here, and unfortunately was not available to our first grandson who graduated in 13, and who our granddaughter will be entering next fall. So he was a tremendous, tremendous person, and so we feel honored to name this scholarship for him. Thank you.
If I could sum up my homily with one word, it's gratitude, and our hearts forever love thee, Notre Dame.
Our next honoree is Wayne Doney.
I'm here this evening representing someone who can't be here, and I'd like to relate her story to you. I'm the nephew of Virginia Antoinette Ritter. Virginia was born in 1910 in Detroit. As a young girl, she was a victim of polio, which left her with a lifelong walking disability. Undaunted by this handicap, she pursued life with enthusiasm and optimism. She was an excellent student with a sharp mind, great diligence, and good intuition. At age 17, a fresh high school graduate, she was hired by the American Bureau of Shipping to work in their downtown Detroit office because she was smart, she could type, and she could take shorthand. The Detroit office of the ABS was a department of engineers that inspected the Great Lakes freighters and ore boats on all 5 of the Great Lakes. The engineers' inspection reports were for the ship's owners and insurance companies. Virginia took the engineers' field notes and took their dictation and prepared their inspection reports. I might add this was 25 to 30 years before the electric typewriter and 55 years before the computer. Virginia eventually became office manager and thoroughly enjoyed her work with the ABS right up to her retirement at age 65. A diligent investor throughout her life, Virginia established a modest yet considerable estate, considering her station in life. Passing away December 30th in 1998, she left 1/3 of her estate to her sister, 1/3 of her estate to her brother's widow, and with the last 1/3, she established an educational trust for her grandnieces and nephews for their post-secondary education, for which trust I was privileged to be the trustee. The Virginia Ritter Educational Trust funded post-secondary education, including 2 trade certificates, college educations, and 1 master's degree for these 5 nephews and nieces. As an indication of her esteem for this university, Virginia directed that upon termination of the trust, any remainder was to go to the University of Notre Dame. On August the 6th last year, it was my honor to present to the Ann Bryce Foundation $180,000 to fund the Virginia Ritter Scholarship Endowment, thus proving indeed that one humble life truly can make a difference in this 21st century. Following her lead, and with both of our sons being Notre Dame grads, it will be our family's honor to add to this scholarship fund by our estate planning. God bless you, Aunt Virginia, and thank God for his gift to us of her life.
Our next honorees are Mike and Julie France.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'm not a deacon, so that's the good news. The bad news is I'm a lawyer. But seriously, Julie and I first want to thank you, Father John and John, and the other leaders here at Notre Dame for all you do in defense and on behalf of the University of Notre Dame. Notre Dame is such a force for good in this country, in this world, and we need to continue to protect it with all we can do, and that's certainly what we hope to do with establishing our scholarship and whatever else we can do for however long we can do it. Our scholarship has been created in the name of my mother and father, Richard and Harriet France. I'm the oldest of 13 children. Like Father John, come from a big family. We were all blessed with the opportunity to have a Catholic education provided by my parents. Our scholarship is devoted to students who are studying here at the University of Notre Dame, Catholic studies. And we had the privilege today to meet the young lady who is studying theology because of that scholarship. Like the other 4 students we saw today, just an absolutely remarkable woman. And as we stood up to leave, I turned to her and I said, "My mom and dad would be so proud of what you're doing." I think that's what this means, what we're all doing means, and I am so grateful to be a part of it, and thank you so much for the opportunity. God bless you all.
Our next honorees are Mark and Nancy Gallus.
So, I am not a deacon. I am a lawyer, but I'm not a litigator, so I don't love public speaking, so I'll keep this brief. Coming in here tonight, Nancy and I were really humbled by the opportunity to get to spend a weekend with so many just incredibly generous people and especially generous people who seem to enjoy rooting against Michigan. So that was great. And just sitting here tonight and listening to the people who preceded us on the stage, I mean, it's even more humbling. I mean, it is really a blessing to be part of this university, to be part of this larger family. And, you know, we just thank you. We thank Father John and the university for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next honoree is Mary Ann Grace.
Well, my husband is usually the speaker for the family, so this is a new wrinkle for me. But anyhow, our Notre Dame story is very lengthy. Our families go back generations, and each of us had an uncle that was a Holy Cross priest. I had an aunt that was St. Mary's nun, and so we were literally coming up here when we were 3, 4, and 5. And it has been such a wonderful part of our lives. We were married here, met here, and have always thought this was the best place in the world. So our one connection, though, is that Chuck's great uncle, Father Charles O'Donnell, was the creator of the words to the alma mater. So I get very teary when I hear it. But I thank you all for letting us be here, and their scholarships are named for Chuck's mother and father, J. Leo and Mary Helen Grace, and then the other scholarship is for Chuck and I. So it's been a great privilege to meet you all. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I forgot to mention my son, Michael Grace, who is also a Notre Dame grad, as well as grandchildren and whatever.
Next we have Jim and Sandy Hammond.
So this lovely woman behind me here agreed to marry me, what, like 28 years ago? When I was a freshman at Notre Dame. We went on to have the first 3 of our 7 kids while I was an undergrad, living at University Village. So we created a scholarship for anyone stupid enough to do the same thing we did. Get married, have kids, and try and get a Notre Dame degree. Go Irish!
They get hard to follow. Our next honorees are Mike and Bob Hoffman.
So we have a family story that when I was about 1 or 2 years old and we were living in California, my mom wrote a letter to her mother back in Cleveland saying, when my kids grow up, I want them to go to a Jesuit high school and University of Notre Dame for college. So you fast forward to my time here at Notre Dame. I was the recipient of financial aid here. My mom at the time was a single mom, raising 3 kids as a Catholic grade school teacher. You can imagine money was tight. So when I had the chance to give a little something back, decided to establish a scholarship in her name. I just wanted to say thanks for your belief in education and Catholic education, and it got me where I am today. So thanks.
Next, we're pleased to honor Tom and Tammy Lang.
It's
pleasure to be here with all of you. Tammy and I are so pleased to make a modest contribution to the prestigious McCafferty Fellowship in the law school, which honors a dear friend of ours, Father Michael McCafferty, who was a mentor and friend and counselor to so many students in Dillon, where I had the privilege of being the RA in his section, and then in the law school, where I had the opportunity to be his student. Father Mike came back to the law school in 1978 when he was only 32, and before that, he had 3 degrees from Notre Dame, had gotten a master's in law at Harvard, and had done 2 prestigious stints for the government and in a Chicago law firm. And even those of us who lived in Dillon back then knew that this guy was a rising star around here. And what he did in Dillon, he did more in the law school. His office was a place for students to go for advice. He challenged us in the classroom. I remember at the end of the class, he reminded all of us that our evaluations of his class and his teaching were taken seriously. And he let us know, as was the motto back then, that teachers were expected to publish in scholarly journals and teach with excellence. And he used the expression publish or perish. And then he walked to the board and wrote for us what that meant to him: publish or P-A-R-I-S-H. So Father Mike touched so many of us, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you tonight and to remember a priest who we lost before he turned 40, and is still, his life and his memory endures in the scholarship that means so much to so many law students today. Thank you all.
Next, we have Peter and Catherine Lawler.
Thank you. I succeeded in getting through Notre Dame with a lot of support, and it included scholarship money from people like everybody here, the hard work of my parents, 10:01 p.m. phone calls from Catherine, who was living in Boston at the time, and work during the summer that included caddying on the weekends and often during the week. 2 years ago, Notre Dame joined in a partnership with the Evans Scholar Foundation, run by the Western Golf Association, that offers scholarships for caddies. And it created the perfect scenario for us to put everything together that was important in my life. So the Lawler Family Scholarship, it is a thank you to the people that gave me scholarships. It is in honor of my parents and their hard work, and Catherine and I, for the impact that it made on us, and it will support one of the Evans Scholars who attends Notre Dame. So thank you.
Next, we honor Ron and Barbara Mambu.
Thank you, Father. Barbara and I are very pleased to establish this scholarship. And Father Joe said today that each of us has a Notre Dame story. And mine began about 50 years ago when I was accepted. And I was grateful and surprised and a little incredulous, too, at the same time. But I turned it down. I decided that it would just be too much stress on our family. So I was set to go to a small Catholic college in Philadelphia. And then a few months later, at graduation, I received a grant, a small scholarship from the local Lions Club in near our high school. And it made the difference. It made the difference in trying to make this work and come to Notre Dame. And so I contacted the university, and once again I was surprised and grateful and a little incredulous, but So with the scholarship that Barbara and I have established, I think if this helps some students in the future decide that they can come here and stay here, that will be tremendously satisfying to us to know that they're going to get some values and faith and exposure to things that will set them in a tremendous position for their life ahead. So that's why we did it, and we're very happy to be here. Very happy. Thank you for everybody who's organized this, and to Bridget, who's helped us through the development process. I told her last night that as we become involved with different organizations, one of the things that strikes me is that Notre Dame knows how to say thank you better than anybody. And we didn't know about this dinner when we signed up for this, but you know, this is an example of that. So to everybody who's been involved, thank you very much.
Next, we have Chris and Eileen Murphy.
Well, my wife and I started this scholarship in honor of, or to help out people with physical disabilities, which is something obviously I've experienced, and you know, so hopefully it will help somebody in the future going along. It was in honor right now. There's 3 people that I'll mention. There's one is St. Anthony, because that was my mother's favorite saint, and everybody knows he's the saint of lost causes and lost people, but also of amputees. So, and also my parents, Ed and Joan Murphy, who struggled financially to put all 6 of their kids through Catholic schools, and it's something that I was the only one with the Notre Dame, but they were all big Notre Dame fans, so you know, I want to honor them. So, thank you.
Next, we honor Judy and Richard Randolph.
I am the graduate. I have to keep him in his place. I also have notes because this is to keep me brief. He will tell you that that is impossible. I'm here to speak to you about the graduate student experience. I did not attend this great university as undergraduate. I am truly amazed that I stand here tonight. I'm amazed that I am a graduate of this university and that I have this privilege to pass on to someone else. I wish only that my father could be here. He passed several years ago. He was so proud that I graduated from this university. And every time we went to see a medical doctor, and trust me, there were many, he would say, "She is a doctor too." And I would have to explain to them that I was not a medical doctor, but a PhD. My dad did not graduate from 8th grade. At the age of 14, he went into the coal mines of southwestern Pennsylvania to help support his family. My mother, her journey was altered by the beginning of World War II, but she talks about how she earned $37.50 a month and was able to buy a hot water heater so that she did not have to heat water on the stove anymore. So I come from very humble beginnings, and because of that, I was not able to attend college after high school. Even though far before GPAs were in vogue, I was a straight A student from 6th grade all through high school. Fast forward almost 15 years later, I was attending a Christian women's conference and heard a psychologist speak about women and self-esteem in Christianity. And I thought I heard this little voice saying to me, "This is what you need to do." So afterwards, I went and talked to this woman and found out that I would have needed a PhD. And so I said, well, I must have heard wrong, because at that time I did not even have an undergraduate degree. Fast forward 20 years later, I do have that undergraduate degree now. I graduated with the highest GPA from Indiana University in Northwest. I had faculty members who encouraged me not only to go to graduate school, but to apply to Notre Dame. I was so surprised when I got my letter, when I found out that I was not only accepted, but this time I had a scholarship so I could attend school. Unfortunately, I was on the vanguard of being a non-traditional graduate student before that term was vogue. We were living in Valparaiso, Indiana, my husband and I and our 2 children. He was a self-supported the family, and so we could not move. So I drove 62 miles through a time zone to school, through whiteouts, with flat tires, cars breaking down, numerous amounts of adversity. I also was not given a stipend for the first year, which meant there was limited money for housing. I did not qualify for married housing because my family wasn't with me. I did not qualify for single housing because I was married. It's a little conundrum there. My first semester, I slept on a couch in another student's little apartment. My second semester, I slept on a mat on a floor in a storage area. Things did get better after that, but there was always adversity, including my advisor leaving after I completed my master's thesis. Any of you who understand the doctorate program means I had to start all over again with my research. So Dr. Cindy Bergman very lovingly and supportively took me on as her graduate student. And Dr. Willis Bartlett at the Counseling Center, because we also had to work at the Counseling Center as part of the counseling psychology program, was very supportive of me and listened to my stories, talking about how I had a flat tire and had to even crawl in my trunk because I had one of these old Buicks so that I could throw the tire out to try and get it out and put it on my car. The other thing that this university did was it probably saved my life, because in my sophomore year, my second year of graduate school, after 15 years, I was finally diagnosed with major depressive disorder and was placed on medication. And I have to tell you, at that time, I was struggling tremendously just to make it through day by day. And so here I am today, full circle, being able now to give back to this wonderful university that gave me my degree. And I did, at the age of 50, graduate with my PhD in psychology and become that psychologist. And God willing, I have been the hands and feet of Jesus helping people, which is the greatest gift that we could have. I would share with you that, if you think about it, if you think of a rope is just a vegetative matter that when you join the cords of a rope, you get a very strong substance. I am proud to be one of those fibers of somebody else's rope and provide them hope and encouragement. I ask one last thing of you tonight, and he doesn't know this. He's going to strangle me. I promise you. This gentleman here supported me through many years, but I ask you tonight to join me in thanking him for his service and welcoming him home, for he is a Vietnam veteran. And at that time, there were no bands, parades. There was not even a group of people with a flag at the airport. There was no thank you. In fact, when he was in his uniform on a plane coming home, people would not sit near him on the plane and ask to be moved. So would you join with me tonight in thanking him for his service and welcoming him home?
Next, we're pleased to honor Tom and Kelly Reynolds.
Father there's a lot of great people in this room, and especially a lot of great people from Pittsburgh, and including our friends who are going to come next. But Kelly and I are so excited to be with you all tonight. This has been really a truly wonderful start for us investing in Notre Dame, in the students of Notre Dame. Oftentimes it's hard to give money away in a fashion that can be rewarding, and sometimes there's a lot of frustration, but investing in Notre Dame and the students of Notre Dame is something that we can be very proud of, and we can feel very secure that what we do here is for so many wonderful reasons. And then the other wonderful thing is that I was able to come here. I had a great experience here. I lived in Keenan, where we enjoyed Mass tonight, and in our very simple chapel over there. And my parents made my stay here very easy. Kelly went to the University of Pennsylvania. She's very smart, and she was. I married him. But she was able to go there with a lot of financial aid. So I probably would never have met Kelly if she had never received financial aid. And now we have our 3 great children, and Kelly retired as a litigator to raise our children. And I have to tell you, when I go home, I lose every discussion, I lose every argument. Kelly is teaching these women how to be wonderful negotiators. So I think I should come back here and try and learn some more skills, maybe. But we're very grateful to the school, and look forward to being here for many years to come. Thank you.
We now honor Casey Ryan and Chris Winningham.
Hi. Casey and I are both double domers, and a majority of our education was funded through loans, scholarships, and grants, with a heavy emphasis on loans. Late January, early February of my sophomore year, I received a letter from the university saying that I still owed $3,000 on my tuition that year, and it was not going to come from anywhere else. So, like a good Hoosier, I did what all good Hoosiers do in a time of stress. I went to a Notre Dame basketball game that night. I was selected from the student body to go out and shoot at halftime. I had to make a three-pointer, a free throw, and a layup, and I would win $3,000. So I did that. Well, my junior year rolls around. I get a letter, I owe $4,000. I go to a basketball game. No kidding, I'm selected. This time I've just got to hit 3 out of 5 free throws. I made them. So otherwise, I don't know where I would have gotten the money from. Thank goodness. So we set up our scholarship to make sure that kids don't have to go through that stress and count on that kind of luck to graduate from Notre Dame. Thank you.
What Chris didn't tell you was that he was the point guard for the Indiana State high school basketball team at one bookstore, so he's a ringer. So it was not fair. Chris is right. We were both the beneficiaries of scholarships while we were here at the university. And in our senior year, we were both very lucky to be admitted for graduate school, Chris to the MBA program, me to law school. And our parents loved Notre Dame. We were both first ones to go to Notre Dame, loved it, right? But they couldn't help us go to grad school. That was really going to be on us. And so my senior year, I lived in Siegfried, and one of my girlfriends called me, and she said, "Can you come down and help me fix my loft?" And she said, "Don't worry, one of my dad's friends is going to help us." I said, "Okay." So we went down, and there was this nice fellow, he was sort of early 60s, and he said, "Young lady, what are you going to do next year?" And I said, "I'm going to go to law school." And he said, "Where do you want to go?" And I'd gotten into Notre Dame, but I hadn't quite figured out how that was all going to work. And he said, "I have 2 questions for you." And the first question was, "Why do you want to go to Notre Dame Law School?" And that answer went on for a long time, right? It's an easy answer to give, but it went on for a long time. And the second question, he said, "Do you pray about this?" And I said, "I pray about it every day." And he said, "Young lady, I think things are going to work out for you." And the next day I was in Siegfried, and there was a knock on my door in the afternoon, and I got an envelope. And I thought, "This is strange, I don't usually do hand delivery," but I got an envelope, and I opened it up, and it said, "Congratulations, you are the recipient of the Magin Michaud Scholarship to Notre Dame Law School." I recognized the name as being the fellow who was a friend of my girlfriend from the night before. putting two and two together, got his phone number, called him and said, I cannot say thank you enough. I was sort of blubbering, much like now. And he said, no, he had endowed a scholarship in memory of his late wife. And he said, it's really important to me to send kids to Notre Dame Law School who understand what it means to go to Notre Dame Law School. The difference that he made in our life was incredible, life-changing. And not only did he give me that scholarship, he was generous enough to give it to my younger sister, who's a year behind me. That was money well spent. She's a really good lawyer, you know. And so the first chance we got to do something, we worked with our good friend Darrell Paulson. He's wonderful. You should know. We're blessed to have him at Notre Dame. But as students who receive these scholarships, thank you to all of you. You have no idea how much of a difference it makes. And we are very happy as donors to be able to be in this room and give back. So thank you.
We now honor Joe Seifer.
Father John and John, thank you very much. It's a real honor to be participating tonight. About 33 years ago, I was applying to colleges, and I was a product of 12 years of the finest Catholic education the Archdiocese of Philadelphia could provide. Let's hear it. And how about those Flyers getting into the playoffs? Huh? And so I thought it was time for a break from Catholic education, and so I was applying, and I was encouraged by teachers at high school and guidance counselors to apply anywhere, and they felt I could get in anywhere, and we didn't have much money, but they said, that's all right, you know, they have this thing called financial aid. So I said, all right. So I applied to Penn and MIT and Cornell and Rensselaer. And my dad was a butcher, ran a corner store in Philadelphia. You know, we'd sit down at a table and he'd write a check out because you had to pay for the application fee. And after writing a few of these checks out, he said, you know, I don't think any of these are Catholic colleges, are they? I'm like, no, enough of that. He said, look, humor your mother and apply to at least one Catholic college, which meant do what I tell you and apply to at least one Catholic college. So the question was, well, which one? So I asked my sister, who is then and still is a mentor to me, a few years older than I, and she said, well, you know, Notre Dame. I have a friend who went there, and I asked my older brother, and he said, well, you know, Notre Dame, they play football. That's apply there. I'm like, all right, fine, Notre Dame. You know, I'm not going to go because I've had enough with the Catholic education thing. So I apply, and sure enough, I get in all these places, and the financial aid packages start coming in. And then every time I talk to anybody, when I was deciding, you know, they'd say, where do you think you're going to go? And I thought I was going to go to Penn. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, you know, where else did you get in? And then I would go down the list and I'd mention Notre Dame and their eyes would light up. And people would be so excited that for me that I could be a part of this Notre Dame mystique or experience. And that went on, and you know, and it was kind of unsatisfying. It's like, is no one for Penn? I mean, everybody's for Notre Dame. And so family and friends, my other brothers, aunts, uncles, friends of the family, I mean, it was on and on and on. Then the final deciding factor was the family I would join, which is the Notre Dame family. Students started calling, and alumni started calling, and faculty and administrators would call. And this was back in the day when there was no social media and everything was by paper, and you get these phone calls one by one, each explaining the virtue of coming to Notre Dame. So my dad said, you know, at some point, these things are inevitable, right? Don't you think it's inevitable? This is where you should go. So caution to the wind, and enough Catholic education concerns aside, I came to Notre Dame sight unseen. We didn't have money for me to travel around to see any of the places I had applied to. So I still remember the day getting here and dragging my luggage down the road and finding the back end of Fisher Hall, which was a lovely sight, I must tell you, back then, and starting my relationship with Notre Dame and my becoming a part of the Notre Dame family. So for me, it's very much a family affair in a very different way. Without my parents' persistence and suggestions and encouragement from my siblings and aunts and uncles and friends of the family, I would have never been here. And I can't imagine my life without Notre Dame and without the friends and the families I'm a part of because of Notre Dame. So it's been my honor to establish the scholarship in my parents' name, but also in the name of the Seifer family as a whole. So thank you all very much.
We now have the privilege of honoring Phil and Suzanne Stenger.
Thank you, Father John and John. My wife and I have established this scholarship in honor of my mother, who's here tonight, and my father, who's not here tonight. He's a Notre Dame grad, but passed away 7 years ago. Mom and Dad, we have 7 kids. They put 5 of the 7 of us through Notre Dame without any scholarships or financial aid, just through their hard work and perseverance. And Suzanne and I hope that with this small scholarship that we've set up in their honor, that a student like one of my siblings could come here and enjoy and benefit from everything that is Notre Dame. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil and Suzanne. Next, we honor Bill and Diana Westhouse.
I just want to say that it is such an honor to be here with such a great group of people who share your generosity so much with the students that need it. I, like many of us, came here on a scholarship that you all paid for, because I was here on a Navy scholarship, and you all as taxpayers paid for it. It's an honor, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much, Father John and John.
Next, we honor Carl and Mary Kay Walford.
When I received the letter of instructions, confirmation, it stated that you may say a few words if you wish. Well, I really didn't plan on saying a few words, really. What I mean, but I didn't see anybody pass this podium, so I thought I better stop. I thought I better stop and say a few words. When I come back to Notre Dame, it brings back pleasant memories of association with Holy Cross priest, the faculty, and of course students. And it brings back memories of another department. You recall the Prefect of Discipline department. Some of you may recall Father Joe Keyhole's name and his assistant, Father Charles Carragher. They did their job. They were cut out for that job. But anyhow, Mary Kay and I are proud and feel privileged to be a part of this scholarship tuition endowment. And while I'm here now and have an opportunity to say a few words, I graduated from New Albany, Indiana Senior High School. I emphasize Indiana because I was talking to one of the alums today from New Albany, Ohio. He's here somewhere. But anyhow, I graduated from high school in May of 1944, and my mom and dad brought me up here in June, the following month, June. And I had done the preliminary enrollment process. And when they finally left on their way back to home in New Albany, Indiana, I watched, they left from the circle down here at the Notre Dame bus circle, and I watched that blue 1941 Pontiac Fastback until it faded out of vision. But anyhow, I went back and joined the other incoming freshmen. And you know, before you know it, you make some friends, some buddies. But anyhow, one weekend, a good time later, one of my friends who was on a football scholarship, lived in Michigan. He invited me home for the weekend. And we went home and had an enjoyable weekend. He was one of several siblings, and his mother and dad and the children were a very devoted family. Their home, their furnishings were just adequate. And I thought to myself now that if it was today, this fellow would qualify for our Fighting Irish Initiative program, because I don't think he had a winter coat to his name, at least while he was here on campus. A lot of us noticed that he never had a winter coat. But anyhow, I would like to support the idea that this new Fighting Irish Initiative program really embodies the mission of the University of Notre Dame to its fullest. And Mary Kay and I, where are you? Mary Kay and I, as much as we can, really want to support this program. So thank you very much. Pardon me, John, could I say one more? Sure. Might as well take advantage of this. Our good friend and a Notre Dame Regional Development Representative who keeps us up on what's going on up here at Notre Dame. We value his information and friendship very much. Jason Scarlett. Thank you.
Thank you. We now honor the Wycliffe family.
Thank you. I'm the guy standing between everybody here and Roars, so I'm going to try to be brief. I'd be derelict if I didn't mention 5 names here, and I'll try to do it very quickly. The first of them was a Notre Dame graduate of the 1930s, an Indianapolis lawyer named Mr. Patrick Fisher, who in spring of 1965 came out of nowhere into my life and connected me with this university. Like Father Joe Capora was saying today, I was one of those who had no connection to Notre Dame. And Mr. Fisher created that in the space of a week. And the second name is of a person who chose to be, to me anyway, anonymous. And that was the person who gave a scholarship so that I could attend this magnificent university. I think I know who it was, but I've never really been told straight up. But the third person is my brother Brian, who was the 9th of the 9 kids in our family and the 4th of 4 sons to come here. And he's the guy who, he's the money guy here. And the last 2 names are those of my parents, Wilbert and my late mother, Emily Wycliffe, who were and are devout Catholics, courageous black barrier breakers, and deep believers in America, who always felt that this country would do better by their children than it did by them. And I'm grateful to Notre Dame for having helped that happen.
Thank you all for your devotion to Notre Dame, your generosity and support of our students, and for your very inspiring words this evening. Please join me in one more round of applause for everyone we recognize tonight. You will receive an email this evening asking for more donations. Only kidding. Only kidding. You will receive an email this evening with a survey about the weekend, so please take a moment to fill it out. It's part of our process to try to continually to improve the things that we do. I now invite our president and great friend of mine, and I think a truly, truly great president in university higher education these days, my friend Father John Jenkins, to say a few words and deliver the final benediction.
Well, thank you, John. There really isn't anything to add to those stories we heard. Notre Dame really in the end is people, the people who make it up. It's you. And the stories of the way in which this university have touched your lives inspires me. I'm sure inspires all of us at Notre Dame to continue that. But that you responded with generosity, that's Notre Dame. That really is Notre Dame. And I just want you to know how inspired I am to listen to you, all of you, and your stories, and how it makes me even more committed to continue the work of Notre Dame, the next generation, to give them the things that you spoke about tonight. Please keep us in your prayers, that we can be true to this mission and do it in the best way we can. We know how important it is. We know how important these young lives are, how they will change the world. So thank you for helping us. And let's just conclude with a prayer and ask God's help in this mission. Lord God, we thank you. We thank you for these stories of generosity, of hope, of belief in the future. We ask you to bless all who gathered here, bless them and all who are dear to them. Bless the University of Notre Dame. Help us to continue its work of educating future leaders of the world, of this nation, of the church. Help us to be true to our mission and guide us always. And we pray this through Notre Dame, Our Lady, and through Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you very much.